I think it's just something different. I mean, there's a lot of truckers around, but they're mostly doing highway and stuff, and this ice road trucking is just something that's
In ice road truckers, the road isn't pavement, it's a frozen river. One crack could lead to life or demise. For several seasons, we've watched nerves of steel battle the Arctic, but behind the cameras, tensions ran high. Here are the 5 truckers Lisa Kelly clashed with most and why. Let's dive into the story. Number 5. Hugh Rowland. Hugh Rowland, popularly known as the Polar Bear, was undoubtedly the king of the ice roads. He started on the show as one of the original cast members. Hugh was a veteran of Canadian roads and an expert in the industry. Something about him screamed old guard. Whether that was because of his tough nature, his experience, or his deeply skeptical nature when it came to people he felt hadn't yet earned their place. When Lisa Kelly arrived in his world, she was just a young lady from Alaska, and even then, you could tell that a clash of two worlds was imminent. There was a tension there that anyone watching could cut with a knife. It had nothing to do with experience and had all to do with respect. In an interview years later, Lisa spoke out about this tension. She was asked about the challenges of being one of the few women in the industry, and she named Hugh Rowland a source of harsh criticism and disrespect. Lisa couldn't stand this sort of attitude, and for her to live her life, she knew she would have to fight back. She thought the only way to turn insults into banter was if she fought back. There was a long battle for respect, and during the second season of Ice Road Truckers, many expert truckers quit, and Lisa and Hugh were left together and forced to tackle Bolivia's infamous death road alone. There was no escaping the tension this time, and they were in a high-stakes environment with many crumbling cliffs. Their feud was stuck in a pressure cooker, and their professional disagreements and personal differences finally came head-to-head on the world's most dangerous road. Their rivalry had become a combination of personal and professional differences. When the shoe returned to Canada for Season 7, the battle lines became clearer than ever. Lisa was driving for the upstart Polar Industries while Hugh had become a co-owner of the rival company VP Express. Not only were they rivals personally, but they had also become direct competitors for loads, money, and even bragging rights. Their feud could only be described as brutal, and in one memorable episode, it was laid on the table for all to see. When Hugh's new hire, Art Burke, suffered a breakdown hundreds of miles from Winnipeg, his bosses left him alone. It was a heavy reminder about the competitive nature of life on the ice, where courtesy was a luxury not everyone could afford. The conflict between Lisa Kelly and Hugh Rowland was never truly squashed with a handshake or an apology. Instead, as time grew, so did it. It started with what Lisa thought was personal disrespect and became a full-on corporate war. However, this feud had some repercussions, as the constant opposition impacted her career. Through it all, Lisa showed resilience. She never once backed down from standing up for herself, even if it was against the show's most established and intimidating figure. Lisa Kelly was a skilled driver and fighter. She had a countermove with every verbal poke she received. She moved with precision with every load she delivered. In a way, it was an avenue to show defiance against her rival's company, which solidified her reputation with viewers. She had earned her spot in the industry and wasn't just surviving the ice but also conquering all it stood for. At the time, Hugh Rowland represented an institutional barrier. He was the voice of things past, a loud voice that told her she didn't belong. However, she stood her ground, and in doing so, she found her place on the road. In later interviews, Lisa would speak about that time. She never attacked Hugh, but she did make it clear that they never said eye to eye. She implied that working with him had challenges, especially when the cameras amplified every disagreement. Overall, their disagreements weren't ever truly personal. They were competitive primarily. As the show got more popular, so did the stakes for each driver's reputation. So each episode was a chance to show skill, toughness, and personality. For someone like Hugh, who had been a central character since the first season, perhaps sharing the spotlight was hard, especially with a young female driver who had what it took to make it big. While the relationship had its moments, it wasn't all bad news. There were moments where they showed mutual respect for one another, And there were situations where Lisa proved herself under the most extreme conditions. While the competition never entirely disappeared, Hugh Rowland was a significant part of Lisa Kelly's journey. Their time on the ice was marked by rivalry, respect, and a clash. While he wasn't the most welcoming trucker, he certainly kept testing whether she truly belonged on the ice and in a way that shaped her to show her true strength. Number 4. Rick Yem. In the year 2010, the Ice Road Truckers franchise decided to leave it all behind. However, the spin-off was a whole new world. Ice Road Truckers' Deadliest Roads featured Lisa Kelly, Rick Yem, and Alex Debogorski being sent to the Himalayas to tackle the most treacherous mountain roads in the world. The challenge was out of this world and intense. It had chaotic traffic and crumbling one-lane ledges called the cutouts. It also had sheer 1,000-foot drops with no guardrails. It truly was the survival of the fittest on ice. And for Lisa and fellow veteran Rick Yem, it would create a spark of conflict that would simmer for years to come. On the show, the tension was felt by all who witnessed it, and the drivers also struggled with the tense environment. However, the crux of the fallout happened 2 years later, and in a 2012 interview, Rick Yem blasted a long list of accusations against Lisa Kelly. He created a narrative that went against all that Lisa stood for. He painted her as a diva, not the fearless driver viewers had come to love on their TV screens. It was a brutal game, and Yem said, "Maybe I'm not as smart as Lisa in that way, but I'm not a superstar or anything. So she brings a manager to do all of her fights. If she doesn't want to drive, he tells them she won't drive, and she sits in the hotel." That wasn't all Yem had to say. He went on to lay out the most damaging claim of all as he battered her courage and professionalism. He stated that he had found out she wasn't driving 90% of the time. He said that if everyone got dangerous, she wouldn't drive. He even challenged her and another driver, G.W. Bowles, to a driving competition without interference from production so that they could see who the show-made people truly are. Clearly, Yem had an axe to grind with Kelly. He felt he had been cast as the hothead while Lisa was given a hero edit. He stated, "I was the only one who went to India without incident. No accident, not a rub, not a dent, nothing. Did they put that on TV? No, because that's not my character." This was a mind-blowing accusation, but the problem was that it directly contradicted what was shown on the show. In episode 3, titled Facing Fears, Lisa is shown confronting her fear of a narrow cliffside path known as the Ledge, the same road that caused her to panic and quit in a previous run. Instead of avoiding it, she purposely drives it again to conquer her fear, even as a flat tire leaves her swaying on the cliff's edge. However, the most definitive and direct rebuttal to Yem's claims came in the season finale, Explosive Cargo. The final, most dangerous mission was to haul volatile jet fuel up the treacherous Rutang Pass to rescue crews stranded by storms. The conditions were so hazardous that Rick Yem and fellow trucker Dave Redmond turned back, deciding it was too risky, while Lisa Kelly continued. She carried the entire shipment herself, quickly becoming the only North American trucker to complete every mission of the whole season. The on-screen evidence was hard to deny. When the road got the most dangerous, Lisa Kelly was the only one who didn't back down. It was clear that the relationship had blown up, and there was no going back. Yem's post-show attack shows how deep resentments can be created when castmates feel like producers have given them a bad edit. There was no argument here. It was clear that Yem and Kelly had completely different approaches and clashed. Episode after episode, there would be friction. They would bicker over routes and argue over load assignments, and sometimes they would even refuse to ride together. The tension was real, and behind the scenes, according to cast interviews, what viewers saw on screen was just as real as the reality of things. Rick had the big personality and energy that left little room for compromise, while Lisa was determined to stand her ground no matter what. None of them would ever back down. And for reality TV producers, this was the kind of drama you needed, a space where two strong personalities never fully aligned, and where the clash only got worse with time. He had a bone to pick with not just Lisa, but the whole reality TV world he believed had wronged him. For Lisa, it was a harsh truth and a lesson that most battles on the show didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. She had built a solid reputation on courage and resilience. Now she had to defend herself against a bad narrative from a former colleague. Yem's statements directly attacked her courage and her entire personality. Unfortunately, he wasn't the only one from the Ice Road truck crew with a score to settle with Lisa Kelly. Number 3, Dave Redman. Dave Redman and Yem had something in common. They were close allies in the show and claimed to have gotten a bad edit from the show's producers. It's like saying that every story needs a villain, and in the 5th season of Ice Road Truckers, the role of villain was given to Dave Redman. He was an Alabama trucker who arrived in Fairbanks with a confident aura about him, and even though he had a short time on the Dalton Highway, he was no stranger to some on-screen conflict of his own. David Redman didn't have to do much to get the villain role. Viewers had seen him clash repeatedly with his veteran trainer Tony Molesky over his gear-shifting technique and stubborn attitude. The arguments weren't the standard run-of-the-mill arguments. They were so heated that Tony eventually left Redman at a truck stop in Coldfoot. In the end, Redman was fired on camera, with the show citing his performance and his inability to be a team player. However, according to Dave Redman, the villain viewers saw on the screen was an absolute fabrication. In many interviews after he was fired because of his driving performance and how badly he treated other truckers, he insisted he was the victim of a scripted narrative. He said, "They had scripted me to be the bad guy on the show, and it just scripted me to get fired." In another interview, he said they spent a lot of effort making him look terrible in Alaska. He said, "The stuff you see on TV is so far from the truth, it's just unreal." Now you must be wondering how Lisa Kelly fits into this exactly. This is where things get interesting, because she doesn't. While Redman also appeared on IRT, Deadliest Toads in India alongside Lisa, there is no documented evidence that they had any direct or personal conflict. The episode summaries show them facing individual challenges, often on separate runs. Lisa had tension with her local spotter, Tashi, while Dave had issues with overweight loads and aggressive local drivers. Their drama stems from association and no confrontation with one another whatsoever. Dave was cast as the antagonist, and Lisa was the show's clear protagonist. His on-screen failures and bad attitude only existed to make her competence and professionalism even brighter. Redman allied with Rick Yem, who wasn't on the best of terms with Lisa Kelly. Yem and Redman were the two drivers who turned back from the final and dangerous jet fuel run in the Himalayas that Lisa complicated alone. They solidified their bond as outsiders fighting against the production when they both appeared on the 2nd season of Deadliest Roads in Bolivia. According to Redman, they both decided to quit the show early on, claiming it was because of unsafe equipment and ongoing issues with production. Redman never truly had any problems with Lisa Kelly. His real fight was with the producers, who he believed had sacrificed his reputation to give viewers a good story. This sent him off the rails and ultimately led to his rivalry with Lisa Kelly. While she tries to remain diplomatic in interviews, her choice of words clarifies that they probably never had an easy relationship. Lisa was the hero on the other side of the story, and because of that, he felt as though he was collateral damage in his fight against the producers and the show. This impact on Lisa was not direct, but it was still significant. In a way, the show's portrayal of Redman as the bad trucker inevitably put her image as a good trucker on a pedestal, and it backed up her status as the show's moral center. She didn't have to do much to amp up this narrative and never engaged in direct conflicts. However, he was a rival she hated by default, a villain created by the script, so their conflict was mainly a creation of others. Number 2, G.W. Bowles. The beautiful, ancient, and harsh world of the Andes Mountains was a huge storyline for this next person. In IRT, Deadliest Road Season 2, this region of Bolivia and Peru became the backdrop for one of the most intriguing partnerships in the show's history. After Rick Yem and Dave Redman left the show early in the season, the production needed to fill the gaps immediately. The answer to their problem came in the form of G.W. Bowles, a seasoned Texas trucker with decades of experience in long haul, but zero experience on the infamous death roads. When he set foot on the show, his pairing with Lisa Kelly had already developed potential problems. It was sure that Bowles wasn't a rookie behind the wheel, but that didn't mean he wasn't a rookie in this new world. It was the place where every turn could lead to a collapse beneath tires, and Lisa had already survived a Himalayan season in India, and she of all people knew that trust was earned in their world, not just handed over to anyone. There was apparent tension from the very start of their professional journey together. Lisa was polite and respectful, but she also clarified that she wasn't ready to just hand the keys over to him. She knew the stakes, and that just one single mistake in Bolivia's high altitude could cost both of their lives. In Oxygen Required, the episode showed that Lisa relegated Bowles to the spotter's role as she remained hesitant to let him take the wheel. This wasn't a decision made out of arrogance, it was a cautionary calculation. Many weeks passed, and Bowles was still in the passenger seat while Lisa navigated hairpin turns and roadways that were barely bigger or wider than their truck tires. His role was to watch for hazards and guide Lisa through tunnel entrances. He was also supposed to manage the unpredictable local traffic of buses, motorbikes, and livestock. Undoubtedly, this was a humbling position for a man used to commanding his rig, but he didn't try to dodge the responsibility or even complain. Instead, he adapted to the situation, learned from it, all while waiting for his moment to shine. A memorable moment finally came in Desert Disaster. They were in Peru this time, facing the sandy cliffside roads where one wrong slide or move could make the truck tumble into absolute chaos. Lisa decided to test him, so she handed him the wheel. This was a gamble, not just another gesture. This was the one moment that both their lives possibly depended on. The cameras caught the exact moment that GW focused and gripped the wheel tightly, and then, as minutes went by, he was nearly sliding over the edge. This incident was a scary reminder that while experience was a big deal, the roads demanded a particular skill. However, despite the odds against him, GW did not succumb to the pressure. He recovered, gaining more of Lisa's confidence with each mile. This led to a better rapport as time went on, and by the time they tackled the Dead Nun Canyon in Bolivia, a terrifying stretch of hand-carved tunnels just inches wider than their oversized load, they were already able to work in sync. Together, they could get through deficient bridges on the verge of collapse as they swayed under the truck's weight. They hauled a load of unpredictable bulls to a local festival, navigating village roads without any incidents. It was clear that at this time the power struggle that once existed between them had now transformed. What started as a cautious standoff had become one of the most respectful partnerships of the deadliest roads. GW showed Lisa that he could handle the pressure, and Lisa showed that there was a way to lead without ego. She mastered the art of knowing when to hold control and also knowing when to share it. The story here might have begun with tension and some bad blood, but it ended on the best of terms. Their story depicts the value of earned trust. It wasn't about loud arguments or on-camera showdowns. It was about making decisions that mattered, and it was about building respect 1 mile after another. There was something about earning a partner's trust that built a relationship. However, it was a whole other thing when it came to earning the trust of your bigger rival and turning that rivalry into the most crucial partnership of your career. While their rivalry began fresh off the press, they were able to salvage their relationship by trusting one another. This was how their partnership grew into what it became. Number 1. Daryl Ward. The last trucker on this list began almost in the same light as the previous trucker. It is impressive how one competitor could be super supportive in the end. This started in the high-stakes world of Manitoba's winter roads, and Daryl Ward was the titan on this road. The Montana legend was known to be a charismatic, risk-taking, independent driver who was no stranger to consistently challenging the established companies. For years, he was a direct competitor of Lisa Kelly. They would race for the same loads and drive the same dangerous roads, and more often than not, they would be pitted against each other just to push further the show's narrative. Simply put, he was probably one of Lisa's biggest rivals and a worthy opponent in the race to be the best on the ice. However, in Season 9, everything turned on its head and changed. After quitting his job in frustration, Darrell Ward decided to believe in himself, so he started his own trucking company from the very start. He needed a partner, and in a shocking move that left viewers surprised, he didn't turn to an old friend or a new hire. He turned to his rival. This was such a massive moment for both of them, and as the show's biography for Lisa states, when her friend Darrell Ward offered up a piece of his new company, Lisa jumped at the opportunity. He did not just offer her a job, he gave her partial ownership. This was the ultimate show of love in an industry where respect was earned and not given. Her biggest competitor not only respects her skills, but he's also willing to bet his entire livelihood on them. Their partnership was a massive shock to all who watched, but also transformed the entire show. For 2 seasons, viewers watched the former rivals work as a team. They faced new challenges together, like Alberta's Death Road and building their company load by load. Their dynamic was one no one saw coming, but it was electrifying and exciting. The same competitive fire they had once used to fuel their rivalry was now redirected to fuel their shared ambition. This partnership was a monumental part of both their journeys, and for Lisa, her on-screen career had one more significant achievement to add to the list. Their newfound relationship from rivals to partners was a definite way to answer all the critics and naysayers. The negativity of characters like Hugh Rowland was now seen as useless when a top character like Darrell Ward became her partner. While things were going great for both of them, it wasn't built to last. Their promising partnership came to an unexpected and devastating end in August 2016. Just after season 10 had ended, Darrell Ward passed away in a plane crash. The news was a huge blow and devastated the trucking community and the show's fans. For Lisa, this was a profoundly personal loss. She stated in an interview that she was sad and that it didn't hit her until she went back there and didn't have her partner. It also put much pressure on her to get things done because Darrell usually took care of many things. Lisa returned to the ice in season 11 to honor her friend's legacy. She also ran the company that they built together. First, she did it independently. Then she ventured into mentoring Darrell's young son, Reno. She taught him the ropes just as his father had trusted her. Lisa Kelly might have gotten off the wrong foot with Darrell Ward, but their story had changed. The relationship that had started in fierce competition had become one of the most interesting, profound, professional, and personal relationships on ice, and through Lisa's journey on television. It was just the proof the world needed. It showed that even on the ice road, the greatest rivalries can become the strongest alliances, and at the end of the day, the highest form of respect is trust. Through all 5 biggest rivals, Lisa Kelly was able to experience different types of battles, from Hugh Rowland to Rick Yem and Dave Redman. She faced barriers she had to break, and then a bitter rival who tried to tarnish her character and a scripted villain in a story she had no part in writing. Through it all, she was able to create her legacy, and to the audience, she was a character who served as an inspiration. She was also a force to be reckoned with in an industry where women are only a tiny fraction of the workforce. Still, she found her place and proved that determination wasn't a thing of gender. Many fans came to see Lisa Kelly as more than just a trucker. She was a symbol of strength, resilience, and quiet determination. In the brutal world of ice road trucking, where even the smallest mistake could spell disaster, she proved time and again that she could endure the harshest conditions and still stand firm. Whether she was braving sub-zero blizzards, crossing frozen lakes that cracked and groaned beneath the weight of her truck, or pushing through whiteouts that could swallow an entire rig, Lisa earned the respect and admiration of viewers around the world. But living under the relentless gaze of reality television was no small feat. For years, her life was dissected by the cameras, every mile driven and every word spoken captured for millions to watch. The long seasons of filming, the manufactured drama, and the constant pressure to perform began to take their toll. In 2017, after more than a decade in the spotlight, Lisa made the decision to step away from the glare of TV lights and the endless cycle of public scrutiny. She quietly returned to her life in Wasilla, Alaska, far from the high-stakes rivalries and the roar of diesel engines on the ice. In Wasilla, she embraced a quieter rhythm. Together with her husband Travis Kelly and surrounded by her beloved animals, she found a peace that the chaotic life on the road could never offer. She traded the adrenaline of icy highways for the warmth of home, the silence of snow-covered fields, and the simple joy of caring for her pets. Her trucking career had taken her far beyond Alaska's borders. She conquered some of the most dangerous and unforgiving routes in the world: the deadly Dalton Highway, the dizzying heights of the Himalayas, and the treacherous roads snaking through the Andes. Each route brought its own unique challenges: sheer cliffside passes, thin mountain air, unpredictable weather, and roads that seemed determined to claim every vehicle that dared cross them. But these physical trials were only part of the story. Off-camera, Lisa was navigating a different kind of danger, the sharp edges of rivalry and tension among her fellow drivers. The ice roads weren't just battlegrounds against nature, they were also arenas for personality clashes, competition, and power struggles. Some of her most significant competitors seemed determined to make her life on the ice harder than it already was. Still, Lisa met those challenges with the same composure and grit that she brought to the road. In the end, her greatest victory wasn't measured by the thousands of miles she logged or the tons of freight she hauled. It wasn't in the world records she may have touched or the fame she earned from millions of viewers. Her true legacy lies in something deeper: her ability to conquer the treacherous landscape of fame itself, to remain grounded and graceful even when the pressure was suffocating, and to walk away on her own terms when the time was right. Lisa Kelly's story is one of courage, perseverance, and dignity. She showed the world that strength is not only about enduring the elements, but also about knowing when to step back and protect your peace. Though she has left the cameras behind, the image of her steering her truck across frozen lakes, wind whipping through her hair, eyes fixed on the horizon, will remain an enduring symbol of what it means to face life's toughest roads with grit and grace. If you loved this video, stick around for more like this, and don't forget to leave a comment below and give this video a thumbs up.